How long does Ruben Amorim get at Manchester United? How long should he get? How long does he deserve? And how long will he actually get? Some of the questions that I want to look at today. But before we get to that, thank you guys for coming along today, whoever's actually watching this. I hope you enjoy the content today. If you do, please let me know in the comments, or however you want to. Give it a like or whatever. I'm still trying to learn everything here, so yeah, we'll see what I can do with this YouTube stuff. See if it does anyway. If not, oh well. But yeah, we'll get straight into it. I'm not going to waste your time. So Ruben Amorim arguably has up there with the worst managerial record for the first few months in the Manchester United job. Worse than David Moyes by a long way in terms of performance. Worse than Ralph Rangnick. I'm pretty sure he's the worst post Sir Alex. So it begs the question of how long does he get? Now, I don't like the idea of him getting sacked already. I think that sounds stupid. He's been in the job for a matter of months, but United being the club it is the biggest club in the world, well, the biggest club in England at least, and the fans, they gave Ten Hag time, but there seems to be this weird thing with Amorim where some fans aren't prepared to give him time, and they wanted to see results quickly, which was a weird thing, because obviously they were like, oh no, Ten Hag needs another season. It's like, no, Ten Hag was just not the right fit. It just didn't work. I think he had a great first season, but then the second season was just normal Ten Hag, what you're going to get from him now. The first season was the anomaly, not the second season. I think that's what we realised quickly this season. And the second season was very much, the first season was very much based on a Marcus Rashford flying in form, basically. Because without him, there were no goals on that side. But anyway, I'm not going to go into Ten Hag and how he never deserved that contract. I'm going to speak on Amorim, and he's done all right so far. As I don't know if you guys have seen my previous video on Jim Ratcliffe's interview, or if you've watched the interview itself, but he was talking about how Amorim's done quite a good job so far, and how it can be quite a big struggle for obviously a young Portuguese manager who doesn't speak much English coming to the Premier League. And it's like, yeah, on one hand he probably has done okay. On another hand, but then you could very easily say no, he's been awful. I don't think it would be too outlandish to say either. In terms of how he's come across in the media, I think he's actually been really good. If I was a United fan, I'd probably be quite happy with how he's been with handling the media. He's been very honest, and that's what that club needs. It needs to cut out the crap, basically. It just needs to get to what the issue is and sort that, because they've been tiptoeing around these little things here and there for years, and no one wants to upset the apple cart. But no, just go in and fix it. That's all he's tried to do. And you might end up getting a shot in the foot, and it's what Ten Hag tried at first, and it ended up backfiring them because he took out Ronaldo and Sancho. Sancho, you could argue, is actually the right choice now, but Ronaldo, I think, is the killer. I think he lost a lot of players with that Ronaldo one, because you got to think, you had all the youngsters looking up to Ronaldo. You would have had people like Varane and Casemiro, who would have actually be mates with Ronaldo. So you're losing potentially quite a few players for taking that fight on. It felt different with Rashford, because obviously he's been out of form, so it was quite easy for Amorim to be like, look, you've not been performing, you're the highest paid player here, jog on. It was hard to do that for Ronaldo for Ten Hag, because Ronaldo was performing in terms of, he delivered 24, I think it was 24 goals in all comps the season before, or maybe it might be more, it might be 24 goals in the league, but I'm pretty sure 24 in all comps. But either way, he was churning out goals. He was their top goal scorer for the club. So you could say that, oh, he's making the wrong fight here. You know, he's picking on the top goal scorer. Why would you do that? Whether Rashford wasn't playing well and wasn't scoring goals and isn't a club legend. So if he's not training well, by all means, ship him out. So I actually do like how he's done that. It reminds me a bit of, I don't know, actually. I like how he's done it, but at the same time, I think that's what he would have done if he came in the summer. I think you kind of have to change your tactics when you come mid-season. And I know United have based the whole process on Mikel Arteta, and if they're going to do that, I'm going to base the hiring on Mikel Arteta and what he did. So obviously, it's Mikel Arteta's first season. We were languishing mid-table. You know, we weren't doing anything that season really. We were bang average under Emery. That's not a slight on Emery, it's just what the situation was. You know, he might not be ready for us back then for the massive job that it was. It was a huge rebuild for our squad, and Arteta came in, and he essentially came into the same sort of situation Emery came in, where he basically had a free hit in terms of you can do what you want with this squad because they've been so poor for so long. So if you don't like someone, fine, deal with it. You know, you can do what you want. And that's kind of what Amorim's had with United. But obviously ours was a bit different with COVID and stuff, with Arteta. But when he initially came in, I can remember being very, very bored watching us. You know, we were a very boring side to watch. The first thing he did when he came in was fix that defence and stop us leaking goals. So he went to the 5-back, which obviously isn't his formation. We know this now. He wants to play the 4-3-3. But he went to the 5-back because he had to survive this first season. He had to get some credit in the bank. And Amorim's obviously come in and he's gone, no, I'm not going to change anything about my system. The system works, it will work here. And he's probably got, if he looks at it, he goes, look, it worked against Man City in the Champions League, and that was the start of their downfall really. So clearly it does work, this system. And it's a fair point if he wants to make that point. But I look at how Arteta handled it with Arsenal, and he went to the 5, I'm trying to think what formation it was. It was like a 5-2-2-1 basically. Like he had Aubameyang off the left as like an inside forward, with Lacazette up there. And obviously there was no Saka really, but then Saka was playing like the left wing back for us. When he was playing Saka, he was playing left wing back. So we had Pepe around those times. I think he was playing Pepe, Lacazette, and Aubameyang was like that 3. If I remember him correctly. Then obviously brought Xhaka back around. He made us much more solid and much more boring, and that's how we won the FA Cup in that first season. Which, when you look at it now, is the only piece of silverware we have anyway, but it's not relevant to what I'm trying to say. At the time, he had to dial it down to get to the end of the season, and then he started to slowly transition the team to how he wants to play. You know, I think the next season we came 5th. We were a bit more expansive. We were still, I think we were still doing a 3-back a lot of the time. But then he started bringing in like Ben White, brought Saliba back into the fold a bit later on. Started to transition to the back 4, and then obviously 2 seasons ago we ended up being the most expansive team in the league. And now he's kind of gone back into the defensive part, but that's not my point. Was that he made it more of a gradual process instead of just going, no, this is my system, this is going to work. He adapted to the players with the vision in mind of what he wanted in the future. Now Ten Hag adapted to the players, but he never tried, or maybe he did try, he didn't have. But that's what I don't get with Ten Hag, because people say he tried to play the Ajax way at times, and it just didn't work like last season, start of last season. And I don't get that, because he's had 2 transfer windows then, you know. Actually he's had 3. He would have had 2 summers, and they spent a lot of money in those summers. So you need to start getting results if you're going to try and do your system after you've had your transfer windows. But anyway, maybe that's what Amorim could have done a bit better, I think, so far. because I think it shows a bit more maturity in the management. I think it shows you can be adaptable. You don't have just one style and that's it. Like, you can mix it up a little bit. It's like Slot this season, Liverpool. You know, some games he's gone Villa Jurgen Klopp football. So other games he's gone more controlled. You know, keep the ball. Other games he's gone long. Like he's mixed it up. He mixed it up in games. Where the United, they're just boring to watch. They're not good at the back right now. So you look at it and go, so what is actually going on at that club? Because if you're boring to watch, you should at least be getting clean sheets, and they don't get that many clean sheets. I feel like they're very leaky at the back, and I think all come to that. I think a lot of that comes out of having Onana and not a solid, consistent back three. I know he wants to have players playing different positions and stuff, but he needs continuity in that team, and that's partly through his injuries. I think obviously you got Martinez out, Euros had his issues, Maguire's got his issues, and the only fit ones they really had have been De Ligt. It's pretty much been a mainstay, and Mazraoui's filled in there at times. But I think when he's trying to chop and change so much with this new system, which is brand new to these players, he needs to make it as simple as possible for the time being, and he needs to keep it consistent. So I give the example of like Thomas Tuchel. When he went in at Chelsea mid-season again, he put players in the positions that he thought would work best. But I remember, who was it, someone came out afterwards and was like, Jorginho had an interview with Rio Ferdinand and was saying, oh, when Tuchel came in, he was amazing because he literally put us in positions and just gave us very minimal, simple. Okay, sorry about that. I think my storage filled up somehow. So what was I was going on about Jorginho at Chelsea. So yeah, basically what happened was when he came out and did an interview with Rio Ferdinand, he was saying that when Thomas Tuchel came in and implemented his three-back system, he looked at the players and went, look, you guys can do this, and he gave them all very simple instructions. You know, he didn't overcomplicate it at all for them. He kept it simple, and he just kept them in their positions. Basically, he was very consistent with it, and I feel like you can name that Chelsea side if you tried to. And I think that's maybe what Amorim could be doing a bit more of. That's because he knows these players aren't going to be able to play in all these different positions in the long term. I feel like he knows only some of them will be able to do it. Like Mazraoui could probably do right wing back and right back. I think he knows who's going to use and who he can't use. Like, I think he knew Rashford was never going to be able to cut it, and I think that's why he ended up getting rid. Because when Amorim came in, I looked at it and I went, he plays with 2 10s and a striker. Doesn't play with wingers. So where's Rashford going to fit in here? He was never going to play in a 10. He didn't work hard enough to play in a 10. And striker, he's never looked convincing at. So alarm bells were ringing there for me already when he came in. And then I think the weird one for me is Garnacho. I thought he would see Garnacho, see his pace, see his energy, see his work rate, and be like, look, he's going to be my left wing back, because he plays very attacking wing backs normally. Well, I say normally, at Sporting they were very attacking wing backs. They're actually wingers half the time. So I looked at it, I was like, if you had Mazraoui or Dallo as your right wing back, and then you have Garnacho as your left wing back, you can even be a bit more flexible. You know, it means you can shift into a back four if you want, because you could play Lisandro Martinez as a left centre back at the time, Mazraoui as a right wing back, and Garnacho as a. And I think that balance of the team would be so much better if he tried that. Maybe he looked at it and it didn't work. You know, maybe that's what he thought. I think long term, Ahmad as a wing back potentially could be an option. I'd definitely look at Ahmad. I think he's got potential to play under Amorim, definitely. Fernandes can do either central midfield or 10. Having watched them, I think the 10 probably suits him more because of the legs you need in that middle of the park. He's obviously got legs, but he's getting on a bit now with Fernandes, and it's going to be challenging for him to keep doing that as a two-man pairing midfield. I'm quite disappointed with how Mainoo's been under Amorim when he has played. I thought he would have been like a staple of that team with Ugarte in the middle of the park. But my point is, he's been playing Casemiro and Eriksen in that midfield as a 2. Everyone knows that's never going to work. So why? So the game he did it in, I can't. Oh, they were getting battered, and they had to change it after like half an hour and bring Mainoo on. I forget the game. But anyway, the point is that he should have looked at that beforehand and known his squad and saying, look, this isn't going to work. Play the 3 in midfield, you know. Go to a fullback. Play off back fight. Like, it needed tweaking, the system. That's what I'm trying to say. I think it's quite naive to come into the Premier League and just think, I'm not changing, I'm not doing anything different. And it's quite, and they obviously said very early on he wasn't going to change. But every manager's changed when they've come to the Premier League slightly. I can guarantee it, you know. Klopp tried playing an inverted fullback a bit with Trent last season. You would never would have thought Klopp would have tried that, you know. Conte went from... Right, I hope that's the last time that happens. Sorry about that. I've actually just arrived, so I'm going to have to wrap this up a bit quicker than I would have liked, actually. Basically, my point was that managers have to change their tactics in the league, especially in the Premier League. It doesn't always go according to plan. The top managers have been adaptable and changed how they've wanted to play. Pep even tweaked the systems at times. So that's my point. Maybe Amorim needs to look at the system and be like, look, maybe I need to be a bit more adaptable to my players and the league, because playing the 2 of Casemiro and Eriksen in midfield is just not going to work. And it'll be interesting in the summer what he does, who he gets rid of, who he brings in, because it's actually a bit of a good thing for United. They don't get Europe in a way. Sounds stupid because obviously they lose a lot of revenue, but it means they don't need to have a massive squad for next season. They can get away with having 15, 16 players and then just having the consistent squad, because then they'll also get to know the system a lot better. And now that I think about it more, that would be really beneficial for them, especially for this group of players, because you've got to think this group of players have been playing every 3 days, 4 days for 3-4 months straight. When are they going to ever learn the system? This is also why Amorim probably should have come in and gone a bit more simple with how he's going to do it, and just said, look, this is all you have to do. This is the main things you do in this position. Keep it simple. There you go. Because it's been too complicated for them. But if they get to next season and it's a similar sort, obviously he can't turn over a whole squad in the summer. He's gonna have at least 3/4 of this squad next year. Personally, if I was United, I'll probably do a video on how to clean up United if you guys people want to watch that. But I would start off with Casemiro straight away. I'd start off with Eriksen straight away. I'd start off with Luke Shaw. Like, I would just get the players off the books who are costly and who are not going to play. Someone like Mason Mount is interesting because Amorim obviously likes him, and he would be perfect for a system because he can play the 10 or he can play the 8. So Mount's an interesting one. I think you just have to get him fit. I don't know how you do it, but you just have to get him fit to see if he's still got the ability. Because he actually looked okay in a couple of appearances he had under Amorim, but it's not worth it if you're paying that much money and he can't play. So I think you have to start with the players who, first of all, aren't going to play, and second of all, do not suit the system. So like Casemiro and Eriksen do not suit the system. Rashford never suit the system. Yeah, I think I'll do my own little video on like a whole transfer thing that I think United should look at. And again, I've done 2 United videos in a row now. I couldn't give a damn about United. I just find that the whole thing quite interesting, looking at it from the outside as a neutral. So I think Amorim, I think he'll get to the end of next season. I think he deserves more than that. That club is a mess. The team's a mess. The squad, I would argue, I don't know. I think you can compare that squad to the Arsenal squad, actually. I think you could definitely do that. Because Arsenal squad, when Arteta came in, at least the world-class players were Aubameyang and, I say world-class, the players who were like top-tier level were Aubameyang and Ozil. They might not have been world-class, but you know what I mean? They were the top tier in the team. When he came into this team, it was Bruno Fernandes, and that's it. That's it. You know, Rashford can be up there, isn't up there. Ahmad has been up there, but he wasn't there before. So I think there's definitely a case to say that Amorim's got a harder job than Arteta had at Arsenal, which is quite impressive because our club was a mess at the time. So a lot of similarities there, and I think he could have learned a thing or two off of Arteta. He said himself he's not going to have as much time. He needs as much time as Arteta was given. If they're planning to win the Premier League in 2028, they should be giving Amorim until 2027, 2028 basically. They should be giving him till that year, because he needs to clear out an entire squad of players. He needs to fix the whole culture in the club, while they're also cutting back the entire club back to the bare bones. So not only is the squad need to go back to bare bones, the club itself is going back to bare bones. So there's nothing to even build off. You know, they're going to try to bring players in. They're going to be like, why would I come here? Like, you don't even have food for your staff. Like, I'm not going to say that, but you know what I mean? Like, that's the whole thing of like, oh, you can't even treat your staff properly. Why would I even come here? And then they'll go to like Man City across the road, and they'll be like, it's not even a debate. Like, they'll see London clubs and they'll be like, oh yeah, I'm going there then. You know, so especially about Europe now. But like I said with Europe, I think it will help them next season not being in Europe. They could still win the Europa League, you know, like they could still easily win that, not easily, but they could still definitely win that Europa League. If they back our Sociedad, I'd put a good chance of them actually getting to that final. And obviously with no Champions League teams dropping down, they could win it. So, but I do think for next season they'd be better off without it. They'd be better off without that Champions League football, because like I said, they need to whittle that squad right down. And if they only use a squad of 15, 16 players for the league next year, it'll be much better. There'll be a more coherent side, and the excess players who don't play will also then want to leave, because they're going to want to play football somewhere. I'll do another video at some point about the transfers, players I think they should be getting rid of, players I think they could sign, or positions, maybe more positions based that they should sign, or players they should look at. Sorry for all the issues today with the phone. Like I said, still new at this, getting used to all of it. Thank you for coming along today. If you have watched the whole way, I appreciate it. I hope you guys have a good evening, and bye.